Hi guys, my name is Soran and welcome to my channel. So typically I cover these pretty heavy topics of international relationships and politics. So today I thought we needed a little bit of fun. So we are going to do a quiz on the new national security law in Hong Kong that was imposed by the Chinese government. Hopefully by doing this quiz in this video, we can spread a little more awareness of what's still going on in Hong Kong today with the CCP government taking over more and more control. Over the last few years, I've been trying to cover the protests and the fight for freedom and independence in Hong Kong against the Chinese takeover. So hopefully I won't fail too badly at this quiz. I hope I can complete most of it. So you and I will be doing this quiz together. That means every time we come to a question, you're supposed to answer it. I'll try to give you clues if I know anything about the question that's being posed. But otherwise, please don't use Google. Just answer from the top of your head the answer you think is the right one. For every correct answer you give, you get 10 points. So in the end, you have to add them all up and type in the comment section how many points you got and what country you're from. That way, we will know how known this issue is throughout the world. In 1 week, I will pick a winner of the contest with the one with the most points, and I will put you at the top of the comment section. So your name will be at the top if you get the most answers correct. So as we go through the answers, if you need time, just pause the video, think about what you want to choose, and then I'll pick it as well. We see if we get the right answer, if we get the same answer, and at the very end, accumulate the points and let me know. All right, so here we go. Can you navigate your way through Hong Kong's national security law? How much do you understand about the impact and ramifications of the new law imposed by Beijing? All right, so here we go. The first question is, we'll start off very simply. When was Hong Kong's new national security law enacted? So I just want to say, I don't know how simple this is because as far as I remember, I know for sure it's not April, because I remember covering this when they just enacted the new security law and how we were told about some of the rules within the security law. So I have a feeling that it's only, at the most, it's 2 months ago. So it must be either June or July. And it's got to be June because I don't think it was just like 30 days ago. It's got to be longer than that. But I know it's not May and it's not April. So I hope I get this right. See, there we go. Yes, its implementation came less than 40 days after Beijing stunned residents and the international community with a plan to impose the law, bypassing the city's own legislature. Yeah, so obviously this was a tough time for the people of Hong Kong when the national security law was finally imposed. At that time, they didn't even know exactly what it meant to have this national security law, as some of the laws were they weren't that opaque. You couldn't really understand exactly what it meant for the people within Hong Kong. They do know that now, though. Now it's cracking down on anything that goes against the state. Beijing's view of anything that goes against the state. It's a really tough law that's brought a lot of people in Hong Kong to consider moving to either the UK, who's offering all these BNO passport holders to come to the UK and gain a path to citizenship in the UK. Taiwan is actually doing kind of the same thing, although it's a little more expensive to go to Taiwan. Not to go there, but to actually gain citizenship. I think it costs around $200,000 to go through the most straight path. All right, so question number 2. This one is trickier. When was the law first published in full? A month before it was enacted, a week before it was enacted, 2 days before it was enacted, after it was enacted. So that's a tough one too. I think I just spoke a little about it. I don't know this for sure, but if they're asking for, do we know all the laws within within the enacted laws, then I would say it's only after, because we only knew about all of it when it had been enacted. That was kind of the scandalous thing about the whole national security law, is that we didn't even know everything about it before it was imposed on people, and obviously no one had the chance to vote for it or anything. So I'm gonna say four. I'm gonna say after it was enacted, and I hope that's what they mean, but it might not be. So take your pick based on what you think is right or wrong. I'm gonna say that it's gonna be four. Yes. China unveiled the full text of the law just after it went into effect at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday night. You could immediately fall foul of it without having had any opportunity to read it. See, that's what was really crazy about this law. Is that they imposed it, and if you hadn't followed the national news and all this, you could all of a sudden be accused of treason or terrorism, even if you just did something as simple as threw a stone to a bus. There's a mandate within the new national security law that anything that's destruction of property, of the state property, is considered terrorism and potentially can give you life in jail. I know that's a bit of a bad example, but potentially throwing a rock at a bus can give you life in jail, legitimately. Obviously, I hope that doesn't happen, and I hope the law will look different when it actually gets to the courts, that the CCP will be reasonable, that the people of Hong Kong, the courts of Hong Kong, will keep some of their basic law, some of their own constitution in a way. All right, so question number 3. We're 20 points in so far. It's 2 of 2. I'm really surprised. You could be arrested for holding which of the following objects in public? So what could you be arrested for holding in public? A banner that says "Liberate Hong Kong, Revolution of Our Times." Right off the bat, I think that's a no-no anymore. A blank piece of paper. A sign reading "No to Hong Kong Independence." All of the above. So that's a bit of a tricky one, because I know the CCP is cracking down on anything that they say is subverting their legitimate force within Hong Kong, and anything that's called "Liberate Hong Kong, Revolution of Our Times." I know that was a very popular flag over the duration of the last couple of years with all of the protests, but I don't think that's allowed anymore. I can't imagine that's allowed anymore, right? A blank piece of paper, I don't know. I can't imagine that for just a blank piece of paper you'll get arrested, right? In public, holding that up. That seems a little crazy. A sign reading "No to Hong Kong Independence." That's a tricky one. I'm almost gonna say all of the above, because it's gotta be A, right? Option number 1 here. That's gotta be one that you definitely can't do anymore. I'm also thinking that a sign reading "No to Hong Kong Independence," I also think you can't do that. And since you can't pick 2 options, it's almost gotta be all of the above. Wow, okay. So a piece of blank paper as well. I had no idea. It's just by process of elimination. That's the one I chose. Following the enactment of the law, the Hong Kong government said the "Liberate Hong Kong, Revolution of Our Times" slogan had connotations of support for Hong Kong independence, which accounts to secessionism. Demonstrators who have held up blank placards at protests against the government and the law have previously been arrested. One of the earliest arrests under the law was of a man holding a flag that said Hong Kong independence. Photos surfaced later showing that the flag actually had the words "No to" written above the slogan, "No to Hong Kong independence," and he still got arrested. So in context, it makes a little more sense that the CCP would. Obviously, I'm not in favor for it, but it makes more sense that this guy, he's at a protest, and the CCP is cracking down on these protests. And even though he's just standing with a blank piece of paper, that must be the reason why he was arrested, right? Very tough, a really brutal law, but that's what the CCP has done to Hong Kong. It's really changed over the last couple of years from when I speak to people from Hong Kong, from what they say. Number 4, which of these slogans or songs are banned? Hong Kongers build a nation. Hong Kong independence, the only way. Glory to Hong Kong, all of the above. This one, I have no idea on this one. I can't help you. You'll probably have a better chance at just picking your own here. I don't know these songs. Obviously, they must be some kind of national, like independence songs and all of this. So I have no idea. It could be any of them, right? All of the above seems a little harsh. I think it's also because the other answer was just all of the above. I don't think I'm gonna pick all of the above twice in a row, right? So I'm gonna go with just a completely random pick here, something with independence. I don't think that's allowed. No, really. Okay, so all of the above. Hong Kongers build a nation is interpreted as supporting Hong Kong independence, which is deemed secessionism and targeted under the law. The same is true of Hong Kong independence, the only way. The government has not clarified whether the singing or broadcasting of the song Glory to Hong Kong would constitute a violation of the national security law, but it has been banned in schools. Wow. You really have a lot of freedoms limited when you can't even sing a song with the title Glory to Hong Kong. That's crazy. Question number 5, almost halfway through. In which of these scenarios can Beijing exercise jurisdiction over national security cases? All right, so I know a little bit about this one. Those involving complex situations of foreign interference by extraterritorial forces. Serious circumstances where the Hong Kong government cannot effectively enforce the law. Situations where China faces a grave and real threat. All of the above. The first 3 options, they sound very vague and left up to interpretation, because they could kind of mean almost anything, right? Situations where China faces a grave and real threat. What exactly does that mean? But it would be like the CCP government to implement a law where they left it very opaque. They left it very undefined so that they can kind of push a lot of things under the same law. Those involving complex situations of foreign interference by extraterritorial forces. So that one for sure I know is illegal now, because that was one of the bullet points of the national security law, that they would crack down obviously on protests and secession to the state, but also these foreign interference by extraterritorial forces like other nations coming in to interfere. But that could mean almost anything. Serious circumstances where the Hong Kong government cannot effectively enforce the law. Again, this could mean anything. I think it's all of the above, because these laws are, for sure the first one I know, but the rest of them just kind of sounds like they go with the same theme, right? Excuse me. Yeah, it's got to be all of the above. All of all of the above again. Yeah. Yes, the law is implemented by Hong Kong police and courts, but China has specified these circumstances where it can step in. Yeah, these circumstances where China can step in are supposed to have a very broad approach. They can step in almost any case. They can step in when it comes to secession, when people are trying in China's eyes to overthrow the reputation or the name of the state. They can step in when it comes to national security, right? The national security law is named that, but they can actually step in when they feel like it's got anything to do with national security within Hong Kong. Not even China's national security, but Hong Kong's national security. Even though Hong Kong has its own police force, has its own judicial system, China and the CCP government can still step in. They can still extradite people from other countries. So if you're from Hong Kong and you move to the UK or you move to Canada in some of these agreements that they're now offering to Hong Kong citizens, a path to citizenship, until very recently, Canada or the UK or a few other countries would actually be in a treaty with China where they would extradite these citizens because they were criminals in the eyes of China. So they would call for them, and these countries like Canada and other countries would have treaties where they would have to extradite them back to Hong Kong, and then now they can be judged back in China, right? So they'll be pushed back to Hong Kong, then pushed back to China and get an even tougher sentence inside of China. Obviously now countries like the UK and Canada has cracked down on that option, so it's no longer available. So now China can't just extradite anyone that they want to who go to Canada. So it's kind of a safe haven, or at least that's what it's become. Question number 6. Hong Kong police have been granted new powers under the national security law. What are they? The ability to search someone's home, car, electronic device, or other premises without a warrant, without an excuse. Demand platforms to take down online content deemed an offense endangering national security, or order service providers to hand over the identification of users. Ban people from leaving Hong Kong. Conduct covert surveillance, including intercepting communications of suspects. But that's all of the above again, because oh, okay. There we go. I'm sorry. That's an extra option. That's all of the above. That's what I'm gonna pick, because I know for sure that the police force is now given an opportunity to raid someone's home or premises without a warrant. They don't need any kind of excuse. They just have to have a suspicion. They just have to have like a thought that maybe someone in that house could have committed a crime at some point, which again is very vague, and it kind of runs the same theme as the rest of the national security law. Demand platforms to take down online content deemed an offense endangering national security. This is again one of these things where there's much debate in terms of also the US and these platforms, these tech platforms, beginning to ban certain points of view. China is doing this and has been doing it for some time, and obviously everyone can agree that it's horrible. But at the same time, the US platforms like Twitter, Facebook, other platforms are consciously beginning to ban people with certain viewpoints. We saw it during the corona times here with the pandemic, how certain doctors were banned on YouTube. They were just talking about their own opinions. Medical professionals with years of experience completely banned off of YouTube for giving opinions that the people in charge didn't like. It's kind of the same thing here. I just find it a little funny that people are completely outraged that China would do something like this when actually it's being done in most countries. That doesn't, obviously it doesn't make it right, it makes it even worse. But people just need to understand that this is a common theme with anyone owning tech platforms. Sooner or later, they have a tendency to begin to ban people from having the wrong ideas, right? Pretty crazy. Ban people from leaving Hong Kong is also something that's very real, and that's happening to a lot of people trying to leave Hong Kong. This came out as soon as the UK began offering a path to citizenship for these British nationals overseas, these BNO passport holders within Hong Kong. They were offered a path to citizenship by the United Kingdom, and as soon as they did that, the CCP government stepped in and said, first of all, if you intend to do that, now you no longer can leave if we decide you can't. You can't just freely go somewhere to the United Kingdom and begin a new life. We have the right to crack down and say you can't go to this country or this country. They're trying to do the same thing now with Taiwan also. Taiwan, who recently offered a path to citizenship for the people of Hong Kong because they feel like they could become the next Hong Kong. China has kind of begun setting their eyes on Taiwan being the next Hong Kong. Now that they're gaining influence and control in Hong Kong, they're moving on to Taiwan because they feel like Taiwan is just a renegade republic of China, and they need to take over that small state in their eyes, right? Obviously, we believe in democracy and independence from mainland China. So they might have been a republic of China, but we believe in their freedom. Number 7. Oh, I'm sorry. I moved on without actually picking one. I was so sure of this one that I didn't even pick it. It's got to be right. Yeah. So it says, Hong Kong police have been granted sweeping new powers under the new law. Under exceptional circumstances, police can enter and search premises without a warrant, as well as restrict people under investigation from leaving Hong Kong. With permission from the chief executive, police can also intercept communications and conduct covert surveillance without people knowing about it, obviously. Question number 7. Only 4 to go. You are an opposition politician in Hong Kong. What could get you in trouble under the national security law? Running for office, campaigning against the government, holding primaries, all of the above. I don't want to fall into the trap of always picking all of the above. So I'm going to go with something different this time. They leave the question a little vague at the same time because they ask you what could get you in trouble, right? Like anything could get you in trouble. But I would say like holding primaries could get you in trouble if the government tells you not to. Running for office could get you in trouble if the government tells you not to. Kind of goes for all of them. But I'm going to pick just one of them that I think is the most likely one. Running for office, I'm not going to say. Holding primaries, campaigning against the government. So campaigning against the government is the one I'm going to pick for this one. I have a feeling that they're going to say all of the above. But I do think that would be in extreme circumstances, not as a general rule, right? Yeah, they did. All of the above. They say opposition politicians, including incumbent legislators, have been disqualified from running in the election for opposition to the national security law. Carrie Lam warned opposition parties that campaign promises to block the government's budget may fall into the category of subverting the state power. In July, the Chinese government declared informal primaries held by opposition parties to be illegal. It's a moot point, though. Hong Kong's government postponed September's election for 12 months, citing COVID-19, drawing accusations it was using the pandemic as a cover to crush opposition. Well, it doesn't seem too unlikely, does it? You have a lot of controversies with the election in the US also, but at the very least, the President Donald Trump is saying that let's just carry on with the election as we normally do. Obviously, the Democrats are saying that we need to carry out safe elections, so therefore, everyone's going to get one of these mail-in ballots. They're going to send them to all the homes in all of the US, which is going to create a chaotic election. You're not going to have a president fairly elected on the eve of the election. That's my prediction. But that's a whole other story. Number 8. A newspaper runs in an ad by a pro-democracy group or pro-democracy activists. Under the new national security law, how long do police have to investigate? 7 days, 1 month, 1 year. They can investigate retroactively, even if it was a year ago. I'm gonna say that they can investigate retroactively, even if it was a year ago. I don't know why. It just seems like it follows the same theme of them giving themselves very wide powers, not limiting their own legal reasons to persecute someone. Prosecute, not persecute. Although they do probably do that also. So pick your choice. I'm gonna say they can investigate retroactively, even if it was a year ago. Yeah, right again. On the same day, police raided Apple Daily. The Japanese outlet Nikkei was also searched, reportedly on the basis that the paper had last year run an ad from the Demosisto Party, founded by pro-democracy activists Joshua Wong, Agnes Chow, and Nathan Law. While the law is not drafted to be retroactive, lawyers representing some who have been arrested say that police have cited evidence, including social media posts, from before the law was passed. Number 9. Activists crowdfund a campaign for international aid and call on foreign countries to pressure China. Are they breaking the law? No. Probably, as far as the police are concerned. I'm gonna say probably as far as the police are concerned, because the way they phrase the question kind of leads you to that. So I think there's only one option here that I can go with. Several activists, including Jimmy Lai, Agnes Chow, and Andy Lee, have been arrested on suspicion of foreign collusion, another broad charge targeted by the national security law. After arresting Lai, Chow, and Lee, the police said suspects had been involved in a group calling for sanctions and other helped channel money through an overseas bank. And you can't do that. You can't use other banks than that of the CCP. That seems very fair. Number 10. You are doing this quiz on the Guardian website or app. While you are doing it, does the Hong Kong national security law apply to you? You should make your choice, but I think I remember reading that the CCP made the law so that the Hong Kong national security law would apply for everyone in the world. I remember reading articles about how Australia's government was warning Australians to not go to Hong Kong anymore, because now they could actually be judged under the national security law. So they were warning them from going to Hong Kong. And a lot of other countries, including my own Denmark, has put Hong Kong on an orange list. Countries that if you go there on your own risk, it's your own responsibility to understand the laws. I'm not sure it's going to happen too often, but I'm not sure that the CCP government would not apply this law, even if you were a foreigner in Hong Kong. I think they would do almost whatever they want if they feel like they have a case they want to pursue. So I'm gonna say yes. Yeah. Based on the way the law is written, it applies to anyone at any time, regardless of if they are a Hong Kong resident or not, and whether or not they are in Hong Kong. So you don't even have to be inside Hong Kong. It's kind of crazy. The last question. Be honest, how many times in this quiz did you answer all of the above? All right, so that's not many, because the law is very clear and has very strict definitions that have been applied in a limited way. We're not going to pick that one. I don't think any of you guys are going to pick that one. If you are, you're going to end up with 10 minus points, or you're not going to get points for this one, and only from the other ones you got right. A lot, because the law is incredibly wide-ranging and vague, allowing authorities huge leeway to apply it in any fashion they see fit. That's the one. You can see what we're getting at here. Yeah. I enjoyed the quiz, guys. I hope you did too. I hope you got a lot of points. There were a few questions, especially in the beginning, about the dates of when it started. I don't think there's a lot of people who's going to know that, who don't follow the case very close. But I'm sure you guys got a lot of them right. I think we ended up with only getting 1 or 2 wrong. Yeah, two questions wrong out of the 11. Granted, some of them were very leading, and you kind of couldn't go too wrong with a few of them. But I'm really happy with the results. We got 90 points out of 110. Now, if you got 110, that's congratulations. That's a perfect score, and you got it. You know way more about it than I do. Also, if you are from Hong Kong and you're taking this quiz with me, you probably know way more either way, right? Yeah, it was a really fun quiz. It tells you a lot. It's really informative, and it tells you a lot about what's going on in Hong Kong right now. It's a really sad situation. I've spoken with people from Hong Kong who, especially this dad who had a family of at least 3 kids and his wife, and he talked with me about moving to the United Kingdom, because he said, if my daughter is to grow up in a democracy, we used to have a democracy here in our own way. The rule that they have this saying had this saying in Hong Kong, one country, 2 systems, that they would still be part of China in their mentality, but in the system that they lived in would be a democracy, or at the very least come as close to it as they could while being a part of China, right? Having their own system and all of this. So I spoke to this dad, and he mentioned that he had a daughter, and she was about the age where she's going to college, and having to make this decision of, do I put my daughter through college now, starting her in Hong Kong, knowing that if I do that, she's probably not gonna be able to, if she values freedom and all of this, she's probably not gonna be able to complete an education without interference from the CCP government. So we spoke for some time, and he ended up deciding taking his whole family and going to the UK, even though it's so much more expensive to actually to move to the UK. Not only you, but your wife and your family and all of the family that you leave behind, and the whole story of your family tree and you growing up in a certain place. It must be very distressing to have to leave for another country in this way. We see it a lot of times with other nations, obviously nations like Syria in just outside in the Middle East, outside of Europe. Now people are from Syria trying to come into Europe to get a better life, but this is something different. When you don't see any physical change, there's no war going on, but you have this creeping sense, like there's nothing really threatening you physically right now So you could kind of see why people would just make a decision and be like, no, I'm comfortable now. I'm not gonna move. These things only happen gradually, and probably I won't feel it too much. Maybe my kids will, but we're willing to take a chance. You can see why most people would think that way. But this guy, this dad, he made a decision to move to the UK. The UK is implementing a new law specific for BNO passport holders inside of Hong Kong, where these British nationals overseas can come and live in the UK and have a very easy, very clear path to UK citizenship, which I thought was a really great offer. It must be a really good substitute now that if you have to leave Hong Kong because of the new national security law, it must be a good substitute. But you wouldn't want to move away from your legacy, your family's legacy, and your country, your nation, and your culture, all of this in the first place if you didn't have to, right? So it's really a sad situation. I know that's just one story, but that's many people who are considering this option with the UK and with Taiwan as well. I'm gonna round off the video here and just say that I really, since following the Hong Kong situation, the protests that began around 2 years ago, and seeing the whole situation, it felt like Hong Kong was winning the fight against the CCP government a little over a year ago when they beat back some of the legislation that was made against Hong Kong from China, right? But then 5-6 months ago, the CCP began pushing really hard for another new law, which is this one, the national security law. They finally implemented it, and you kind of feel sad for the protesters in Hong Kong, because it's not like it was in vain the success of the first years of protest, the constant protests against the CCP encroaching on their rights. It's not like it was in vain, but you just, when the very end result is like this, you just gotta feel bad for the people living in that, for the people affected by it. So hopefully this video will spread some awareness of the whole situation. Hopefully it will, if you're not from Hong Kong, you did the quiz with me, hopefully this will teach you a little about how severe the situation is. Since it's not a war, it's not really being reported in the news, but it really is as bad as it gets in terms of it not being a war. These people are suffering and will suffer under the new national security law. So thank you so much for doing the quiz with me. It was fun, even though we're dealing with a very serious issue. So thank you for watching the video, also taking part of it. And if you like the video, you can share this with your friends and make them take the quiz also. See how many questions they get right. And remember to put your score in the comment section below. Then I'll make sure to find the winner and put their name on top in 1 week's time. All right, guys, have a really good day, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. God bless.